What if I told you that in the Middle Ages, a simple cut on your finger could kill you? No war, no dramatic battle, just a tiny wound. And the worst part is, people back then truly believed they were doing everything right to survive. We often imagine medieval times as something epic, knights in shining armor, castles, heroic stories. But the reality was much darker. If you got sick, your chances weren't just low, they were terrifyingly close to zero. And once you understand how medicine actually worked back then, it completely changes how you see that era. One of the most common treatments was bloodletting. The idea was that your body had bad blood that needed to be removed. So if you were ill, a doctor, or sometimes just a barber, would cut you open or apply leeches to drain your blood. It sounds shocking now, but at the time it was based on a widely accepted theory about balancing the body's internal fluids. The problem is, instead of curing people, this often made them weaker. Imagine being already sick and then losing a significant amount of blood. In many cases, the treatment itself pushed patients closer to death. And it didn't stop there. Another popular medicine was mercury. Yes, the same toxic substance we now know is dangerous. It was commonly used to treat diseases like syphilis. People would rub it on their skin, inhale its vapors, or even ingest it. Sometimes symptoms seemed to improve for a short time, which made people believe it worked. But more often, patients suffered severe poisoning. Teeth would fall out, mental health would deteriorate, and many simply didn't survive the cure. There was even a saying at the time, "A night with Venus leads to a lifetime with Mercury." That tells you everything about how common and how dangerous this treatment was. What makes it even more intense is that medicine wasn't just physical, it was deeply tied to religion and belief. Illness was often seen as a punishment from God or the result of evil spirits. So instead of receiving treatments we would recognize today, people prayed, went on pilgrimages, or relied on sacred objects they believed had healing power. In some cases, exorcisms were performed. Imagine having a serious infection and your best chance of survival is prayer. It sounds unbelievable now, but without scientific knowledge, it was the most logical explanation people had. The scariest part is how deadly everyday life could be. Today, a small cut is nothing. We clean it, maybe use antiseptic and move on. But back then, that same cut could become infected. And there was no understanding of bacteria, no antibiotics, no proper sanitation. If infection set in, it could spread quickly through the body. At that point, survival was unlikely. Sometimes doctors attempted amputations to stop the spread. But without sterile tools or proper techniques, that often made things worse instead of better. You might have heard that people in the Middle Ages only lived to around 30 years old. That's not entirely accurate. The average was low, mainly because so many children didn't survive infancy. But if you made it past childhood, you could live into your 50s or even 60s. Still, there was always a constant risk hanging over you. A fever, a cough, or a stomach illness could turn deadly in a matter of days. There were no reliable treatments, no safety nets, just hope. So why didn't medicine improve for so long? One big reason is that people relied heavily on ancient knowledge and didn't question it. Influential figures from the past were treated as unquestionable authorities. Instead of experimenting and testing new ideas, many simply followed tradition. In some places, even studying the human body was restricted, which slowed down progress even more. Real breakthroughs only started happening much later, when people began to challenge old beliefs and build knowledge based on observation and evidence. When you really think about it, the most terrifying thing about the Middle Ages wasn't war or violence. It was something much more ordinary. A minor injury, a common illness, a treatment that made things worse instead of better. People weren't just fighting disease, they were fighting it blindly, without understanding what they were up against. And that's what makes it so unsettling. Not just that people died, but that they had almost no chance to avoid it. The real danger wasn't always visible. It was in the air, in a wound, in the limits of knowledge itself. If this changed the way you see history, stick around, there are many more. Stories like this that reveal just how different the past really was. And some of them are even more disturbing than this one.